Well, hello there, guys. Welcome to another channel. Today we will be talking about how to water orchids. 5 different ways to water orchids. And as you can see here, this is the greenhouse that I have. The current buds and blooms. There are a lot, and there's a lot of spikes, a lot of buds, lots of blooms. Just beautiful. So I have a lot of orchid phalaenopsis that are in buds and blooms. Also, I have some pops or fops or whatever you want to call them. So I have 3 of them. There are 2 here. One of them has another bud next to it, as you can see. And then the last one is a pinkish color. But yeah, let's get started. Before we get started, I will also show you my setup. So these are 2 little greenhouses that were like 50 bucks or so, and I attached them together, and basically this is the setup that I have. So I am in Houston, and currently it is cool, so therefore I have the clear plastic. But once spring summer hits, plastic is off, and then I'm just throwing shade covers. And then I also have irrigation systems in the middle for the vandas, since they have to be watered once or twice a day, or a lot more times. Alrighty, so we're going to start with the first method is to use distilled water. And you can buy this at the grocery store, normally $1, $2 at the most. And basically it is distilled water. It has nothing in it, it's clean, and you can apply this to your orchid. Now, if you have a few orchids, then this works. If you have a lot of orchids, then this is going to be expensive in the long run. Alrighty, so we are moving to the second and third method, which is tap water and reverse osmosis. So your tap water, you can use it as long as the pH level and the chlorine is acceptable. If not, then you cannot use this, but you can, so we'll cover that in a little bit. The other option is to install or invest in a reverse osmosis system. Basically, this was at least less than 300 bucks. And here you can see the setup. So it has the reservoir tank that keeps the water, and then a few filters where the water goes through to be cleaned. But yeah, so if, like I mentioned, this is up to you if you want to invest or just use your regular tap water, distilled water. There's options. Let's put it this way. So here I'm just filling up my little watering can with the reverse osmosis, and I also fill these containers with the reverse osmosis water, because it does take like 2 hours to re-filter, if that makes sense. Now, the good thing with orchids is that you don't water them often, so that's a good thing. But back to tap water. So what you can do, if you know that your chlorine level is high, you can just fill something up, a container. And this container looks a little bit yellowish because the Tupperware is stained. But basically, you fill up whatever container you're trying to do, and you set it aside for a couple hours, a day or so that the chlorine evaporates. And from there, you should be able to use this water onto the orchid. The third option we're gonna talk about, it is rainwater. So as you can see here, I have 2 totes with some clippers on the side to keep it together, and since it's winter, I only have 2 of them, and basically I just put them under the roof of the house, and it collects rainwater, and then I cover it so it doesn't get algae from the sun. So in the spring, I do have about 8 containers of this, so I can use that. Now, the one you also want to use or invest in, like I did here, is a rainwater barrel collector. And this is very, very handy. This is like the best option to water orchids. So basically, you put this container on top of some cylinder blocks, and the gravity does its job basically. So as you can see here, it is full. And I haven't used it in the winter just because you water less in the winter. You water the orchids less. But this here is one of the best options to use because it's just rainwater and it has all the right minerals and substances that it needs for the orchids. Now, if you use this methods, even with the toads, you want to buy some mosquito dunks, I guess, and apply it in the water so that way the mosquitoes won't use your water as breathing spots. And the best option in my opinion, it is pond water. So as you can see here, I have a few fishies, and these plants that you see here were very small, like a foot, and then within less than a year they are huge. Like, they have basically evolved and grown so fast. And the best thing about pond water, so obviously it has water, but it also has poop, ammonia, everything that the fishies dispose of. And therefore, you're not only watering your orchids, but you're also fertilizing at the same time. Now, most of you guys are not going to have a pond, so then you have to invest in fertilizers, Super Thrive, for healthy roots and stuff like that. But in my opinion, this right here, all I do is just add new water to the pond, the fishies do their thing, and then I take the pond water and add it to the orchid so they get water and fertilized. And here you can see lily pads. Since it's cold, they don't turn green. They don't get that pigmentation, that warm weather, which is why you see this lily pad being red. And on the side is a little one as well. Alrighty, so now we're going to move on to actually watering orchids. And here I have two kinds of orchids. So I have your standard on the left, Orchid Phalaenopsis, and on the right you have a Dendrobium orchid. Now these are different but similar in a way. So as you can see here, that medium on the Dendrobium is very, very dry, and that's what you want. The medium on the Orchid Phalaenopsis is a little bit moist and I shouldn't be watering it, but I'm going to water it for the purpose of this video. But you want the orchids to fully dry in between watering. Now here I'm using the watering can, and this is the method that I prefer the most. So basically, I just add the water to the orchid, and as soon as it reaches the crown, I stop. And then that's it. That's all the watering it gets, and it's a done deal. So basically, as the water goes down, it's gonna soak up through the media, and that's it. You never want to water the leaves or the crown, as this can cause rot or damage. Now with the Dendrobium, we're gonna put it inside this thing so it can get soaked. Now this Dendrobium right here, as you can see, is very dry, and the orchid is pretty healthy. It's green, it's healthy, and it's good to go. So as you can see here, I'm dunking it all the way inside. I will have to throw a little bit of water out so that it's not fully submerged. And basically you're gonna leave this for a couple minutes. Now a lot of people leave it for hours, and I'm like, bro, like that's way too much. Orchids like to be moist. They do not like to be wet. If they are wet, then it leads to the roots getting rotten, and the orchid just being in a very unhealthy scenario. Now meanwhile that takes place, orchids, you want your orchids to have green, bright roots like this one. You also want to have aerial roots as well, so which is this one right here, and then this little one here, which is how they get air, because as you can see, it has a clear pot and it doesn't get much air. Now for educational purposes, in their natural habitat, orchids attach to trees and they hang up upside down, or sideways you could say. So therefore when it rains, the water doesn't get in the crown. And also when it rains, any bird poop or any feces, I guess, goes straight into the roots. Alrighty, so we're gonna take this out. Make sure you grab it by the pot and not the media or the plant itself, because you can basically take the whole thing off and that'll be an issue. So anyways, so this one, like I mentioned, I did soak it because it does have big holes, and it will allow air to dry it faster. Now if it was an enclosed pot, then obviously that will be a problem. But anyways, guys, this is it. Thank you so much. Please comment, subscribe, and like for next videos.